Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to go over 3 of the most broken builds in Elden Ring, builds that you should be using, or builds that you should at least try out because they're pretty broken and fun to play. Not to mention efficient if you've still got some content you need to clear in preparation for Shadow of the Erdtree. So let's get into it. For the first weapon we got one that everyone and their mom hates, and that's the Rivers of Blood. This is what you use if you have absolutely no self-respect and you just want to absolutely delete everything in front of you. Whether it be a boss or some random dude in a PvP lobby, this weapon is going to absolutely melt them, and I guarantee you'll be receiving a ton of salty messages the second you take this weapon online. Just look at my comment section for proof. Not only is this weapon the most broken weapon in the game, it also pairs perfectly with the 4 most broken talismans in the game, and that's what I call balancing. As for those 4 talismans, we are going to pair this bad boy with the Shard of Alexander for 15% more Ash of War damage, which basically turns L2 into the delete button. The Lord of Exaltation for 10% more damage whenever a blood loss proc happens, which is all of the time. But just to really break this broken build, we will also throw in the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia and Millicent's Prosthesis, which makes each consecutive attack that we do hit for more damage. So that just translates to way too much damage. Please no nerf. Also, the white mask makes you do a bit more damage as well, but it looks ugly as fuck and I respect myself far too much to wear this ugly piece of shit. Queen America looks much better. Rampage from the future here. Apparently I forgot the Wander's Physic, so the tiers we're going to use for this build are the Thorny Cracked tier and the Green Burst Crystal tier, for the extra consecutive hit damage and stamina regeneration. Then you'll be good to go. Getting into the second build, we have yet another weapon that you only use if you hate yourself, and that is the Moonveil katana. This is yet another one of the many broken katanas in the game. It's essentially like the Rivers of Blood, but a different flavor. It's laser flavored. The flavor you choose if you still have a teeny tiny speck of respect left somewhere deep inside your soul, but you still hate yourself. Now the lasers on this katana are a bit fancy. You can swing them vertically or horizontally. However, I recommend that you just spam the vertical one until your L2 constantly falls off like mine, because it does more damage and is capable of breaking the poise of most bosses in just 3 hits. So you can go in there and get the wombo combo and get that instant kill all stylish like. Now you can't just wield a katana that shoots lasers at people and not have some absolutely broken talismans to go along with it. So for this build we're going to use the Shard of Alexander for 15% more Ash of War damage, the Magic Scorpion Charm for 12% more magic damage, the Dagger Talisman for 17% more critical hit damage, and the Ritual Sword Talisman for straight up 10% more damage. But this one only works when your health is full, so don't be bad at the game. You can also pair this build with the Spell Sword set for 2% more damage for each piece of this set that you wear, but once again I respect myself far too much to wear this ugly piece of shit. As for the Wanderer's Physic, use the Magic Shrouding Cracked tier and the Stone Barbed Cracked tier for more magic damage and poise break damage. So for our third build here we have something truly special. This one is for the people who want to roleplay the most fierce animal of them all. See, with this build, you, like a cockroach, will almost be impossible to kill while still being extremely annoying to the boss's health bar. Now to pull that off, we're going to be using the Blasphemous Blade. This weapon is just all around great. It doesn't have these problems that the other builds have, such as the Rivers of Blood not performing as well against bosses that are immune to bleed, or the Moonveil, which can potentially struggle against bosses that are resistant to magic. No, the Blasphemous Blade just hits like an absolute truck against everything. It does even more damage to enemies that are weak to fire, and the best part about this weapon is it heals you 10% of your max health, plus 150 with each hit of the Ash of War. Plus there's no cooldown, so against most bosses you can just stand there and spam that shit until the boss is dead. It's beautifully balanced and I absolutely love it. But to take it from beautifully balanced to the most beautifully balanced weapon in the game, we're going to need to add some talismans. So we will equip the Shard of Alexander for 15% more Asher 4 damage, and for the third time in this video, the Fire Scorpion Charm for 12% more fire damage, the Crimson Seed Talisman for 20% more health regeneration, and lastly the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman for 20% more damage reduction, just to make us a little bit more tanky. For this build, I also recommend that you use both the Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength incantations as well, since you will have more than enough points in Faith, and the amount of extra damage and defense you get out of these is massive. And you should run them in any build where you can fit them as well, including the two other builds I mentioned if you can comfortably fit them in at your level. As for the Wanderer's Physic, I just saw the Fire Shred and Cracked Tier, and the Stone Barb Cracked Tier in there for more fire damage and poise break damage. But feel free to experiment here, maybe you'll come up with something better. For those of you wondering about specific stats for each of these builds, I'm going to drop that information in the description so that it's easier for me to update the information should something change or I find a way to make these builds better. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more videos like this and feel free to join my Discord server while you're at it.